Should you spawn peek, and when should you do it? First, let's be real about spawn peeking. Ideally, you're taking out an attacking opponent early in the round, getting the man advantage, and hopefully taking out a vital character from the other team. If you take out an ace, that's a big money play right there.
Can't take it anymore! I just want to die!
What you're actually doing, though, is punishing inexperienced players for not knowing common angles and experienced players for sprinting out of the spawn when they should be ADS. Spawn peeking is actually super easy to counter. You just pre-fire the peek spots. You get spawn peeked once, you put 2 rounds in that window every time you start out, you never get peeked again. Newsflash, as an attacker, you have higher damage, lower damage drop off, you get into higher magnifications. Fights at distance, like a spawn peek fight, you should always be winning. I remember the first time I was spawn peeked. It was like 2 months into playing the game, and it took a long time for people to figure out that you could actually do this, and it blew my mind when it happened. Absolutely revolutionary. And 8 years later, my friends are still getting spawn peeked 3 times in a game, and I still get super frustrated when it happens to me, but now that I know how to deal with it, it just feels like a free kill for my team. So as a defender, as great as it might be to get one of those spawn peeks off, it's high risk, and let's be totally honest, you're probably not getting away with it on the best player on the other team. So if you're gonna spawn peek, you need to have some things in place first. First of all, if you're gonna spawn peek an angle that gets you cut off from the rest of your team because it's nowhere near the bomb site, no one's spawning where you're looking, it's like you're not even playing at all. Trust me, retaking the site after the diffuser is planted is not fun. Second, make sure your chosen spot has cover. Check out the spawn peek I have on border. I've got cover to the left, I've got cover to the right, and I'm in a window, so I could drop down if I need to. As an added bonus, if you get one, just go to your secondary angle. Getting a spawn peek on a good player is risky, but trying to take out 2 is almost impossible. It's not worth doing. Okay, so if you don't know, defenders have roles, and the simplest breakdown of these is anchor, map control, and roamer. So which one is the best for spawn peeking? Well, you might expect me to say roamer, but I think really any role on the team can spawn peek as long as it doesn't get in the way of your role. We have an anchor on our team that does most of the peeking because during the first minute of the round there isn't much for them to do, so they can effectively get off a peek and at the very least slow the other team down and get back to the site following a path through the map control player back to the site. The roamer is fast and has freedom to move around the map, so it's easy for them to spawn peek, but don't forget, if you open up a line of sight, you could easily get crossfired, so be purposeful when you roam and peek. Map control players can peek as well, as long as they're in a controlled area where they have cover to fall back into. If you're confused about map control, check out the video on map control that I made. The link is in the description. The takeaway here is that you don't give up your responsibility to spawn peek. This is one of those situations where you might have gone positive in your KD, but your team still lost because you think fragging is the only part of this game that matters. And that could be totally true for you, but don't solo queue into my ranked game. I'm surprised I have to say this, but I see it all the time. Someone goes in, they get a good spawn peek off, and then they go to the same exact spot and it doesn't work out. If you're the kind of person who wants to spawn peek every single time, at least mix up where you're going to do it so that they don't take advantage of you. If you watch Pro League, pay attention to how often they're spawn peeking. It's almost never, okay? Just because something annoys you as an attacker does not mean that it's always an effective strategy. Do not feel like you have to spawn peek to play this game well. And that concludes the video. If you liked what you saw here, subscribe. We'll see you next time.